As the executive director of the National Atomic Testing Museum, I have a very close connection to our 1/200 scale model on display of the USS Nevada. This is true not just because it is a visually dramatic and historic display, but because since childhood I have continued to be an avid model builder. This is a hobby I have passed on and continue to work on with my son James to this day. When I first came to the museum almost 5 years ago, I was stunned to learn there was not more recognition paid to this very historic ship. I decided to correct that. I took a bid from one of the nation's top military model builders who contracts with the Pentagon, U.S. Capitol, and the White House. We thank the many donors which helped underwrite the cost of this $8,000 model project, and especially Dr. Linda Miller, who made a substantial donation to see the exhibit to completion. Few ships have more history than this one. The USS Nevada became the first truly modern U.S. dreadnought. When launched, she had many new radical concepts. All these engineering principles became the centerpiece of every American battleship and cruiser to follow. Naval designers considered the Nevada a modern marvel of the day, as well as an object of great industrial beauty. An Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, watched the Nevada's christening with great emotion as she slipped down her slipway on July 12, 1914. President Woodrow Wilson sent Nevada to assist with America's entry into World War I in 1917, and then had her return to Europe when accompanied on his ship, the SS George Washington, as he sailed for the Versailles Conference. Following the next Great War, it is fitting that Nevada once again played such a key part in post-World War II issues of deterrence. During the famous 1946 first post-war nuclear test in the Marshall Islands, known as Crossroads, the Nevada served as the central target ship as it came in the crosshairs of a veteran B-29 bombardier from the 509th Bomb Group, Dave's Dream, for the famous Able test. The 21-kiloton air detonation buckled the ship's bulkheads, but the ship remained remarkably serviceable. The USS Nevada easily survived that nuclear blast and a later underwater explosion of an equal force known as the Baker test. These tests are now all documented by a marvelous art exhibit, which we have running through this summer and also highlighted on our webpage. After Operation Crossroads, the Nevada returned to its base at Pearl Harbor. It was notably radioactive and was officially decommissioned. 2 years later, Consensus thought it best to sink the Nevada in deep water because of her high levels of contamination, which continued. They chose to send the great ship out in style in a conventional arms test, so the Navy towed her 65 miles southwest of Hawaii, where many types of ordnance trained on her for the final target practice. After that, she still remained afloat, so heavy explosives were placed aboard and detonated. The ship refused to sink, so the Navy tested guided missile against the veteran ship. Again, no results. Then 16-inch battleship fire from the USS Iowa commenced, but the Nevada still remained and determined to stay afloat. Cruiser fire followed and air attacks were launched. It was only after numerous aerial torpedo hits did the 34-year-old battleship slip beneath the waves. Ironically, the Nevada had sunk before. On December 7, 1941, at Pearl Harbor, the mighty ship managed to get underway, but after numerous torpedo and bomb hits, Navy tugs intentionally grounded her to prevent the ship from blocking one of the narrow channels to Pearl. The ship burned for almost 12 hours as its hull filled with water and fuel oil. Salvaging the ship began as they refloated her and eventually sailed the Nevada under her own power to Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Washington State. Then extensively modernized and rebuilt, the Nevada went on to support many operations of World War II, including the Normandy landings. Nevada also fought back against the Japanese and fought at Iwo Jima and Okinawa, where she was actually hit by a kamikaze. Nevada did finally get to Japan, supporting occupation duty in Tokyo Bay. Recently, this ship, a veteran of 2 world wars and a survivor of the Pearl Harbor attack, has finally been located by underwater archaeologists. It thus represents yet another timely historical reflection. It remains my favorite exhibit at the National Atomic Testing Museum.